Welcome to From the Logo. Media Day just got over today. The Jrue Holiday shipped off to the Boston Celtics. The lineup starting to solidify itself. What did you guys think about that trade? What did you think about Media Day?
Well, kudos to Joe Cronin, in my opinion. It was always going to be after the first deal where Dame got sent to Milwaukee and then we got Holiday back. Like we said in our last video, it was going to be a trade incomplete until we saw what he got back for Jrue. And what he got back for Jrue was pretty good. You look at the assets he got, they're two players that can help now or be flipped, and they both have value, obviously. You start with Brogdon. Brogdon could be flipped, probably still could be flipped. He wasn't flipped before Media Day, which I'm shocked on. But it sounds like we're keeping Time Lord, Rob, whatever you want to call him.
Is there a new watch
Yeah,
in
that's what I was
Portland?
going to say. Dame time to Time Lord. But that guy is really good when he plays. And Blazer fans are used to hearing that from bigs and things like that. But DeAndre Ayton is also a guy that's healthy a lot. So if Williams can't play, it's good to have Ayton in there. That's like the best center duo in the league. And then you look at the picks. The picks are good because the pick that they got from that's more recent is this upcoming season, and it's from the Golden State Warriors. It's protected 1 through 4. And the Warriors last year barely avoided the play-in. They're getting older and older. If they have an injury or two, if Clay goes down, Draymond's out to start the season with an ankle. If Curry has an injury, they can miss the playoffs. They're that old. They're just at that spot where they could get an injury. So that pick could be solid. And then the other picks way out in 2029, you don't know what's going to happen with the Celtics by then. So Joe did good with flipping Jrue for value. He could still flip Brogdon for yet another first. And you look at everything that he got for trading out Dame, Nurkic, Little, and Keon, and you sub it for DeAndre Ayton and Robert Williams, Brogdon, 3 picks, 2 swaps. I mean, that's pretty good for when a point guard demands only Miami. And he's 33.
Yep. He ended up getting the job done. I mean, this trade is all just part of the same trade that we've been talking about for 2 weeks now. And it is kind of funny because it looks like Joe Cronin might be a championship building GM for other teams, because the two teams that have the highest chance, according to Vegas, of winning the championship this year, tied, is Boston and Milwaukee.
Wow.
So, the two
And
teams
Phoenix is third, aren't they? And they got
Phoenix
Nurkic.
is third, yeah. So we're building championship teams, just on the wrong coast, but I mean, that's okay. I mean, that's what this was, and yeah, we definitely got a haul. I'm pretty excited to see what Robert Williams and DeAndre can do for the team. I mean, what a totally different front court. How long has it been since we had one good center? It was like 90. I mean, it just goes to show how long ago it was. It's been decades since we've had a star center. But I'm curious, do you think that we're going to see Robert Williams and DeAndre play together? Or do you think it's going to be two different lineups? Because I want to see them play together and see Jeremy at the 3. I've been saying for months that I don't want Jeremy Grant playing the 4. I think he's going to get bodied too much, and he's not going to be able to shine. So I really want to play that big lineup. It's been a long time since we've had a big lineup, and we have the opportunity to now. We have two starter level bigs, and I think we should try it.
We posted a poll 6 hours ago. Do you think Robert Williams will start alongside Ayton? 13 votes so far. 77% said bring him off the bench. 23% said start him. Be sure to go vote in that poll. Let your prediction be known. So yeah, sounds like at least so far, the start of this poll, most people think he's coming off the bench. but I agree. I like having the option to go big. At least it's hard to know whether they'll start or finish games necessarily. But how long has it been since the Blazers have just had that option to go big? I can't think of the last time.
Yeah. It's a little bit of an awkward fit on offense. The spacing's not going to be fully there, but DeAndre Ayton has a really good mid-range shot. I know it's not the most efficient shot, but if he can spread the paint kind of even like Aldridge used to, I know Aldridge would probably be a center in today's day and age, but Ayton, when he was coming out of college, he said his preferred position was power forward. If Ayton's jump shot is pretty pure and he shoots some threes, I'm sure he'll probably have the green light to at least shoot threes this season. You know, you don't want him to stay out there because that lowers his gifts, and you want him to play near the rim as much as possible. But if you're playing him with Robert Williams and he can shoot, I mean, that's an interesting lineup. They're both very athletic. They can move the floor. They can kind of play switchable defense. Both can, service. DeAndre can serviceably protect the rim, and Robert Williams is a terror for protecting the rim. So I think it could work matchup dependent. And it's interesting that you said Jeremy to the three. It's what we've been talking about on this pod, because Jeremy was asked a similar question for media day. Have you been talked about too about playing the three, the four? Jeremy said either one because they asked him as well. So we could see some Jeremy at the three lineups like we've been begging for. So if they, I don't think they're going to start Scoot, Simons, Grant, Robert, and Ayton, but that lineup could see minutes, and that would be very interesting. I agree with you guys.
There's also the option of trading Brogdon for another forward, small forward or power forward that could potentially slide Jeremy down or at least provide some more size, length at that position without having to play both Ayton and Time Lord.
You're right.
Time Lord and dominating as DeAndre Ayton has been obsessed with hashtagging the last few days.
Yeah, we saw media day. You can lead us off with Ayton since we're on that topic. I figured we'd all touch on something we took away, one person we took away from media day, but we can talk about whatever you guys want. Go ahead and start with Ayton.
It's funny how he's 25 years old, doesn't seem like he's been in the league for very long, and a lot of his quotes, he was talking about how he's going to come in and be a leader for this team, which makes sense. He's probably has the most big game experience out of anyone on the roster. He's made it to the NBA Finals, started on a team in the NBA Finals. He's been through like 3 deep playoff runs, something like that, 3 or 4 playoff runs. So he has a lot of experience. He was talking about teaching the guys like certain things on defense, terminologies, and things like that. So a 25-year-old being the veteran on the team is a little bit funny, but he is an experienced guy, and he's experienced winning. And I like what he had to say about being a leader on this team, and also just his excitement coming up, change of scenery. He talked about the position he was in Phoenix taking a toll on his mental. He obviously didn't get along with his coach very well. It didn't really seem like he had a group of guys in the locker room that he really connected with at a deep level. I'm sure they're buddies, and he really seems excited about getting a fresh start. He talked about, not on media day, but when he first came to the facilities a few days ago, he talked about how it felt like he was being drafted. So it is exciting to see this guy, still very young, ton of potential, obviously a number 1 overall pick, but also coming in and able to be a leader on this team full of young studs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was awesome to see, and I'll keep mine short, but other than there's the dominating stuff, some people clown on him for it, and we didn't watch him every game in Phoenix, so you could see it if he was saying that and then he was playing passively, why some Suns fans could be frustrated with that. But coming into a new spot, you could read between the lines between what he said, and I listened really quick to Suns Media Day just for one or two questions about Ayton, and it really sounded like, he was not in a good situation. I mean, everybody could see it. It was kind of public, and we've talked about Ayton on the pod many times being not in a good spot. But I think him being here in a place he wants to be in with an organization that wants him and is going to kind of feature him and get him going, I'm telling you, we're going to see an engaged DeAndre Ayton. And if not, then there's bigger issues at hand. But I think he's got the athleticism and he's going to show it. And if he follows through with what he said in his interview today, it's exciting for Blazer fans.
Yeah, and I mean, even Chauncey kind of touched on DeAndre Ayton a little bit, talking about how he's going to have a more expanded role than he had in Phoenix. They're not going to expect him to play like a Joel Embiid kind of a role. They're not going to expect him to be an MVP. They're not going to throw him the ball 30 times a night, is what Chauncey said. But they are expecting a lot out of him. I mean, he's going to be the anchor, down low. And they're expecting him to play down low too. So the one thing that makes me a little nervous is that Ayton has consistently said across his whole career that he doesn't like playing big, basically. He prefers to play more finesse. He prefers to shoot. He always kind of couches it by saying like, yeah, but I understand I'm a big guy and I have to play down there. But I hope he embraces it to some extent, because he's going to have to. He's going to have to be a little bit of an enforcer and a little bit of a banger, probably, because we've got a lot of littler talented guards, that are going to be taking a lot of the shots and playing a really up-tempo style of offense. And for him to be effective, he's going to have to play down low. Now, by playing in an up-tempo offense, he's also probably going to get to take some shots. So hopefully he gets a little bit more of what he's wanted all along too. But he's a big guy. He's going to have to play big.
The guy runs the floor like a gazelle. I know that.
Who does that remind you of? Former Blazer. Some of these comments you guys are saying are reminding me of someone.
Yeah,
a big guy who runs the floor like a gazelle but plays soft. Well,
Marcus.
And that's okay, but that's a great comparison. We were trying to find players to put next to Dame that were as good as LaMarcus. And yeah, I agree with what you're saying, Riley, but the guy is built, look at his body, he's built like David Robinson. And I'm not exaggerating. And that's why he's the number 1 overall pick. If he even improves on his 18 and 10 and gives you 22 and 11 or 12, and he's switchable on defense, that's a great asset to have. So we'll see. Hopefully he puts it together on the floor. You're right. Another guy, I mean, I'll just dive in. I'm already talking. Another guy that we all want to know how it's going to go with is Scoot. So I love Scoot's energy already. I've talked about it all summer. People are, some people ask questions on the pod. Why do you think Scoot's going to start? Whose team is it going to be? It's going to be Scoot's team. Maybe not right the first day, but the guy is just a franchise mindset. And you look at his media day questions today, there's so many quotes that stood out. The major ones to me, people are going to compare him to Damian Lillard for good reason. All the way down to 0 from 0, right? I think that, so they asked, does replacing Damian Lillard add pressure? And he said, just because people think I want to be the new Dame, I don't even think like that. There's no pressure. I'm Scoot Henderson. I've never been pressured like that. The only pressure I have is from myself. The pressure I put on myself to be the best version of myself that day, to maximize that day and go out there and kill my opponent to help my team out on the win. Kill my opponent. That's like Kobe Jordan talk, right? I'm not saying he's Kobe Jordan, but that's the mindset. Kill your opponent, not win. So that was the one that stood out to me. Another thing that he specifically said is, he's going to play downhill, up the tempo, which, this team is super athletic and young, so they can run the floor a lot more than we've seen with Dame. And he's going to try and kick it out to people. But he also said, I'm not just trying to be a guard. I'm trying to be one of the premier guards in the NBA. So the guy's coming in with full confidence. He's already played professional ball 2 years. He's going to be a franchise player unless, injuries happen, in my opinion. I just think it's going to happen. And he's just got a great head on his shoulders. If you listen to the guy talk, I think it's going to be a morale setter for the entire team. He's going to be like the tide that raises all the boats. And it might not happen right off the bat. I'm not saying we're going to be a 50-win team, but this guy reminds me of Ja Morant without the off the court issues as far as like Grizzlies timeline. That's what this team reminds me of, young Grizzlies. So we'll see what happens. But Scoot's media day was awesome.
Yeah, what more is there to say about the excitement that we have for this kid right now? I mean, watching him in summer league, just one game, and then seeing his antics on the bench was enough to sell me on it. So yeah, I'm all in on him. I've been all in on him since the Blazers drafted him. That's a big part of why I wanted to see the Blazers trade Dame, was so that he really had the chance to shine and shine early in his career. And I think he has a chance to do that this season. I think he'll be in the Rookie of the Year hunt. And I think that this team has a real good shot of being better this year than they have been the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, and I my big takeaways from this media day were pretty much the coach. I thought that what Chauncey had to say was really interesting, and he talked about Scoot a lot, obviously, and he talked about how surprised he was that Scoot is already such a playmaker. And that's the kind of thing that leads to leadership and that leads to building a team around a guy. And not only a good playmaker, but also a really good defensive player. And he talked a lot about how the tempo is going to be pushed this year. And, sometimes when you have a super young team that's just getting started, you kind of have mixed feelings about that up tempo tag, because that's what they always say about young teams that aren't really that good yet, is that, well, we're just going to try to outrun everybody. And, I'm sure that it's going to be really interesting to watch and probably really fun, and they're probably going to put up a lot of points. But if Scoot can be a defensive leader too, and especially with Ayton kind of anchoring the defense, and if they can focus a bit on the defensive end with Chauncey at the helm, I mean, that Scoot really could put together a Rookie of the Year campaign, and they might be pretty good and pretty fun to watch.
How much do you think?
I hope
how
it's
much
not
of a-
130 to 135 every night.
That's the way the NBA is headed, Riley. You're just gonna have to accept it. All teams are gonna be in the 130s here soon. How much of a leash do you think Chauncey's got at this point? Like what would it take for him to keep his job? What would it take for him to be fired within the next couple seasons?
They're a young team, and I think the front office knows that. I think he'll have a leash. I think they're not going to be the worst team in the league this year. That'll probably be the Washington Wizards. And I think that everybody probably knows that a range anywhere from mid to high lottery to play-in is realistic. So I don't think he'll get fired unless he's like does something off the court or gets into it with some of the established players.
Yeah, I don't imagine that his leash would run out on wins and losses alone. Yeah, I mean, I think this team, no one has any idea how good this team's gonna be. I mean, they're very new, lots of young players. One guy who was on the team, 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I mean, it's pretty crazy, and it's a crazy situation for a coach to be in, especially a pretty new coach too. So yeah, I think that he'd have to really mess up to get fired this year. If he lost to the team, lost the hearts and minds of the team, that could be a problem. Or if he's just not gelling with some of the young guys that are definitely going to be the future of the team. But yeah, I mean, I think as long as they win 10 games, he keeps his job.
Yeah,
But
if
you're
it's
taking
historic, he could lose it. You're right.
you're taking the Bleacher Report under on that.
Yeah,
Really, all things considered, Billups might have more job security now than he did at the end of last season. Maybe he was on a little bit tighter of a leash, probably, as they were desperately trying to figure out a way to win with Dame, just pretty much trying to do the impossible. But now there's really no expectations, as you mentioned, and every win this season is going to feel like a bonus win, I'm sure, to a lot of the fans and to the organization.
It depends on how fast this team comes out of the gate too. I think it's just like last year where if the team gets off to a hot start, expectations are going to be raised. We're gonna be like, oh, Aiton's really showing out and Williams is anchoring the defense.
We'll be doing how the Blazers are going to win a championship time travel video by
with Christmas exactly
by early November.
Yeah. So I think it depends on that.
Check out that video if you want an outdated but very creative video.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was called, but
we should do another one like that this year.
We time travel. You gotta come down here, Colton, so we can do more hijinks like that.
Of course, we got to do a live and set some more this season.
And it'd be fun to watch a game too.
Totally, and I definitely think we should do kind of, weekly updates where we talk about how the season's going. Comment down below if you guys got a format of video that you guys enjoy or some kind of content that you want to see as we go into the season. Weekly updates of how the games are going.
Now that the Dame trade is finally done, we'll be able to do a depth chart video here pretty soon. Although there's still probably moves to be made. Obviously, the headline now is Malcolm Brogdon likely to be traded. We posted a poll yesterday. Should the Blazers keep or trade Malcolm Brogdon? A whopping 89% said trade him, 11% said keep him. So I think that the fans are aligned with the organization on this. Just rather go the direction of the younger guards and try to flip Brogdon for more prospects. Quick note, just on the guard note, I don't even know why I'm bringing this up. I just thought it was interesting. They did officially sign Skylar Mays to a 2-way deal. I really liked him at the end of last year. I think he'll be a very nice option off the bench to, I don't know if he'll be getting big minutes or anything, but it's nice having him there. I think I like that option.
Yeah, two more things that I took away from Chauncey's media day on the guard side. First of all, Malcolm Brogdon, I definitely get the feeling that he's on the move pretty quickly. Like, even listening to Chauncey talk, obviously he's not going to say that, but just the way he was talking about it, I think he's going to be beneficial to the young guys, is what he's saying. He's like basically saying the guy can't really play on this team, but will take his leadership or his wisdom as long as he's here, is what it felt like, which just seems like the kind of thing that you say about someone who, isn't gonna be there long enough to sign a lease. But then when he talked about Anthony, I got very much the other impression that Anthony is kind of in it for the long haul, unless things don't work or unless we get just an incredible offer. I did not get the feeling that Chauncey thinks Anthony is out the door anytime in the next year. He talked a lot about how he's taken his game to another level. His confidence is much higher. He's going to be like the leader on the team. He's the vocal leader. His work ethic's up, his ability to facilitate and run offenses up. The fact that he's already forming a mentor relationship with Scoot and even Shaden, that's the kind of thing that you get from someone who you're expecting to play a lot of minutes and stick around. So, I mean, Chauncey doesn't make the call at the end of the day, but he definitely has a little bit more insight than we do on the direction that Joe's thinking about taking the team. And things can change, if things don't work out or if we get an incredible offer for him. I'm sure Joe would pick up the phone because we have too many guards. But, I mean, if Anthony really is taking his game to another level, we can't just let him go for unless it's for something pretty special. So, Anthony's an interesting one because as the Dame era kind of came to an end, we all felt like the timeline wasn't right, and Anthony, wasn't going to end up being like the Robin to Dame's Batman, and that's all true. But go back a couple of years and listen to people, Blazer fans, and even us talk about Ant. We were pretty excited about his potential. He has a lot of raw talent.
He's still only 24 years old. 24, younger than Ayton. But yeah, I do agree with you. Since the Dame trade, I feel like it's become pretty obvious that Ant isn't going anywhere anytime soon. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the fact that he's the longest tenured player on the team, and he has kind of a connection built in with the fans and the organization and such. And he's a good player, so I'm not opposed to keeping him. I just don't know how that lineup's going to work with him, Sharp and Henderson, as we've discussed ad nauseum. But maybe they'll make it work. Plenty of explosive offense on the team from those three guys.
Well, 2 points is one. I mean, I'm not going to get sidetracked by the Malcolm Brogdon thing yet. I'll do that after. Speaking to your guys' Anthony talk, one of the things that was taken away from Media Day is they asked both Joe Cronin and Chauncey if there was the guy on the team. And both of them kind of had a similar answer, which is somebody's going to have to come get it and become the guy. And, when they talked about the guards, they asked Chauncey, I believe, how is the lineup going to work? Who's going to blah, blah, blah. Chauncey said they're going to have to figure that out by who earns it. So who knows who's going to start? I mean, we all think it's going to be Ant, and it probably will be. But it's going to be interesting to see, because how you can play those three guards is kind of how we've seen it before, with Ant playing either spot. Scoot's kind of a full point guard. Shaden's kind of a 2. So you could have Scoot and Ant start. And what if Scoot comes in and he's a bulldog on defense, as much as you can be as a rookie? Then it's not as bad to have Anthony be a kind of a sieve on defense, because Scoot's a solid defender. Then it doesn't hurt you as bad. And then when Scoot goes to the bench, Anthony stays in, becomes the point guard. They're still working on finding his reads, right, with playmaking. And then Shaden steps in at the 2. So they're all going to play together. They're all going to play in spurts together. We'll see how it goes. We'll see who develops. If Shaden becomes a good defender, or Scoot, Simon's problems kind of fade away as far as the defensive side goes. At least you have one good defender. So
what do you think the odds are of Shaden playing any minutes at the 3? He's obviously, we don't love the small ball option, but he's a little bigger. He's 6'6", obviously very athletic, big wingspan, high jumper, all that stuff. And if he can hold his own on defense, you think, or maybe the question should be phrased, do you think he'll be able to hold his own on defense at that position to be able to play extended minutes with Scoot, Simons, and Shaden all playing together?
Probably. They're going to need to find him minutes. I mean, if Brogdon's here, Shaden will definitely play the wing a lot. He'll probably be the primary either starter or backup wing, just because Brogdon's going to need minutes. You don't want to get him upset with his situation if he's like playing and a part of the team. But I do think it's going to be Matisse Thybulle that ends up starting at the small forward spot for now. If Shaden is getting burned on defense at the 3, it's not going to really hurt you too bad this year, just because you're developing, you're experimenting.
And
this year is going to be the year of experimenting.
And you got dominating and Time Lord backing you up in the middle too, so the blow-bys aren't quite as painful as they were in years past when you had Nurkic and Eubanks down there.
I was going to say, and we can save more of this analysis for the depth chart video,
yeah.
But imagine Matisse Thybulle being his like chase down off-ball pest, funneling guys into Robert Williams. That's the kind of stuff the Blazers haven't had in the recent history of the team. The size, the rim protection. Nurkic was kind of a shell of where he was as a rim protector in the last couple seasons. So we're going to see how that works. And you're right. If Shaden's at the 3 and he gets blown by, it's not as big of a deal. I think he'll see minutes there. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think that there's a good chance that at least to start the season, Shaden is going to be kind of the odd man out, of the starting lineup. But we've talked about this a lot. The starters, it matters for sure, but what really matters is who gets the bulk of the minutes and who finishes, and that might end up being pretty situational. We might have some times where the small ball lineup really does work. I mean, even when we hated the small ball lineup, it did work sometimes, against the right teams. And the fact that we have that flexibility now to go small, to go big, to play Time Lord and Ayton together, or to play 3 very talented offensive minded guards, it's a good spot to be in. And I trust that Chauncey's going to figure out how to make it work.
I do feel like playing small ball is a little bit different with Shaden and those two centers down low, different from Norman Powell and
Yeah.
Robert Covington in the starting lineup. Some final thoughts on the Jrue Holiday trade. We posted a poll in which 79% of respondents gave him an A, while 12% gave him a B, just a combined 9% giving him a C or lower. So I think right now, even though there might not be a man on the roster that's the man, we can all or most agree that Cronin is the man in the front office. Do you guys have any final parting thoughts about Media Day? Any sentence to sum it all up?
Just kind of touching on what you just said, Joe's media day. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on with Brogdon, as we've touched on. And he basically said, he had weird phraseology. He said, "We want Brogdon to be a part of this." And I don't know if that's like his way of saying, come on, show teams that you're healthy and we'll kind of showcase you a little bit and then we'll ship you out, or just stay with the teams until we can trade you, kind of thing. Because he's not going to be here for long. Obviously, there's that wing spot that's still kind of that gaping hole, either the 3 or the 4. But I am interested to see where Joe takes this. Joe handled the situation about as well as he could, in my opinion, kind of what we started with. And his media day, he had some combative questions that were asked of him, but I think it should have been his strut moment where he takes a bow on the stage, because he did a good job. And I feel a lot more confident going forward that Joe will be able to tinker and find the right pieces at the wing spot going forward. So
at the very least, he didn't capitulate to the Miami Heat. In fact, he traded 2 valuable assets, potential championship favorite making players, to their 2 rivals. So good on you, Joe.
Yeah, he found a way to not only tell Miami to stuff it, but to make it unlikely that they're going to compete for a championship this year. And we've talked about this before. They basically gutted their team with the assumption that they were going to bring in Lillard. So, it's very satisfying. But my 2-word sum up for Media Day would just be fresh start. Yeah, I mean, that's how it feels. It's exciting. It's
very
nerve-wracking. It's uncertain. We don't know how things are going to go. We still don't exactly know who's going to be on the team, although at this point we have a pretty good idea of what our depth chart's going to look like. It's a fresh start for Ayton, which I think he's needed for a long time, and we've been calling for on this podcast for years. So it's exciting to see him with a big smile on his face, ready to come to a team and try to build something. And it's a fresh start for Blazer fans. We have a lot of new faces to get used to, a lot of new personalities to learn, and tendencies, and mistakes to critique. But that's what we're here for.
I think it's the most exciting time to be a Blazer fan in many seasons. First preseason game against the Suns, Thursday, October 12th, 10 days away. And the season's right around the corner after that. Exciting stuff. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be at you next week with a depth chart video. Hopefully things will be even more solidified. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.